Today I'm here to moderate the panel. I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their company. My company is Pink Dog Digital. We're a small boutique digital agency in the Baltimore area. Byron?
Hey everybody, my name is Byron Hoffberg. I work at a company called WebbMason. That's really a kind of multi-channel integrated company. Also work in the digital realm. My background is kind of in ad technology and sort of grown that into more of a digital agency type offering.
Peter?
Peter Martin, I don't know if the mic's on, but Peter Martin, I own a company called Cactus Sky. We've been in business for about 18 years. We're a large automotive email marketing company. We send out, on a low month, we might send out 10 million emails. On a big month, we might send out 50 million emails. So we do a lot of mass marketing. Where I'm that pesky guy that you sometimes get an email from that you probably don't want. And then my other company is Testimonial Builder, where we developed a mobile app which makes it very easy for you to take video testimonials and get them published and syndicated on the internet.
Sharon?
I'm Sharon Mostyn from Mostyn Marketing Group. We're a full-service marketing and advertising agency handling both digital as well as traditional marketing.
Okay, great. So I'm going to bounce around here on questions, and also I think we're going to do question and answer at the end, Larry? Yeah. Okay, cool. So Sharon, people are always talking about chasing the Google algorithm. What's your special sauce for getting people on the first page of Google?
So Google changes their algorithm on a regular basis, and the easiest thing to do to make your content rank is to create good content. There is no special sauce. There's no real way to predict what Google's going to change next. And so if you create content that's relevant to your audience and make sure that that content gets the visibility that it needs, whether through, as Colleen suggested, posting it on your company page on LinkedIn and having your employees share that word. All of that impacts your search engine optimization. And so I think that, creating good content, hello. Creating good content is the key. That recency, frequency, and relevancy that Google looks for in your content to make sure that you're reaching the right audience with the right message at the right time. Perfect, and I agree 100%.
Byron, mobile is a big thing now. If your website's not mobile, you've got a problem. What are some of the newest technologies and trends? And as it relates to the content that Sharon mentioned, talk about storytelling and content for mobile.
Absolutely. I think that's a huge aspect that people aren't really considering with mobile. I think that they are approaching the content much in the traditional sense. Not so far to think about magazine layouts when you sort of have all this ton of writing and then you figure out where you put the picture. In mobile, think about it. It's much more linear. It's quick point visual, and I think keeping that short form linear ideation when you're approaching mobile is really important. Mobile as a whole, when smartphones came out, it was probably 20% of ad tech placement. Now it's high 60s, if not higher, depending on the audience. So super important there. The technology is phenomenal and amazing in terms of, as you said, getting kind of the right people, the right content. Lat long, based on apps like Uber, allow us to really target people if they're in a brick and mortar store. For the small business owner, that could be competitively conquesting people who are going to your competitors' locations. It could be targeting people who are at your own site for kind of cross-selling or further engagement. But really, I think what's cool about mobile in the future is that lat-long level targeting and all the things that can come from it.
Great. So in terms of content, we hear this word ad nauseum, and I don't think a lot of people really understand how much, how often, how long. So in terms of the email space, Peter, can you talk about how much is too much? When does email marketing become annoying?
Email marketing becomes annoying when you start spamming people. And we teach our clients, you can send out 2 emails a month. Now, we work with a lot of car dealers. One of our clients is Chrysler. So we work with a lot of Chrysler dealers. And Chrysler dealers and most car dealers like to spam you. God forbid you give them your email address when you're trying to buy a car. You know your inbox is completely full of emails from them and everybody else and their brother trying to sell you a car. Our recommendation is always twice a month. Beginning of the month, we always like to suggest doing a tip or something educational. And then the middle of the month with a sales piece, primarily in automotive because everyone's been trained to buy cars at the end of the month. But if you want to try and get a third email in, you can send a third email if it's a true e-newsletter. You don't want to send out something that is a sales message disguised as an e-newsletter. But if you're sending out more than 3 emails a month and one of them being a e-newsletter, you're sending out too many emails. Now, to just kind of make a little side note on that, if you're in constant communication with somebody who's trying to buy a product, you can communicate with them as much as you want. What I'm talking about as far as the 3 emails a month is an email marketing message.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just add in there, I find that opt-in emails, if you have people who have opted into your email program, I mean, that is gold, and treat them like gold.
Yes.
Agreed. So I'll throw this up to any or all of you. What's the barrier for entry for small businesses into the digital space? And where do you recommend a small business begins their digital footprint?
I'll go first.
I would start with your website or your online presence, because with some clients, and my company included, the website is not the most important part. It's there for validation, but out of 30 years of marketing and advertising, I've never gotten the website lead to be my primary source of actual sales. So depending on your specific niche, depending on your specific audience, the website is not necessarily your prime focus. It may be LinkedIn. As Colleen mentioned, there are 600 plus million people on LinkedIn. That's a whole lot of people who could look and find you quicker than your specific website. But a website of your own gives you that owned opportunity to present your story.
And to follow up on that, your website is by far the single most, in my opinion, piece of your marketing puzzle, no matter what you're selling or what you're doing. Because your website, number one, and most people, I go out there, small businesses, don't have a mobile-enabled website. Being an email marketing guy, we track our email campaigns. I can tell you for a fact that over 70% of the emails that are being opened that we send out from a marketing standpoint are being done on a mobile phone. So if your email, your website does not render properly on a mobile phone, you're not in the right place, because consumers are going to go out there and before they buy a product from you, step into your store, they're going to Google you. And you need to have a good web presence and it's easy to navigate. If you don't have a good mobile website, you are severely hampered when it comes to marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and honestly, to go on that and kind of expand, I mean, if you're looking for making that choice in the website, obviously WordPress is a great platform. Mm-hmm. If you're looking to sell anything in the e-commerce, one item or 10,000. I find Shopify is a pretty good user-friendly site themselves. Once the website is up to par, I think certainly the local SEO would be a huge aspect of it. I always use the acronym NAP, name, address, phone number. Obviously, there's Google My Business is the big one, but particularly if you're thinking local small business, make sure your information is right in the Baltimore Sun, in the Baltimore Business Journal, in the local Chamber of Commerce listings. It's more than just Google, and that proliferates a lot. Honestly, covering the bases on more of the paid digital advertising world, the Google AdWords pay-per-click. Think about spending that little bit on a click for your own brand name. Particularly if it's kind of, it could mean a lot of different things or a lot of companies out there. And then test, I would say, paid Facebook and Instagram. It's the same platform, but you can spend a little as $5 a day and really target very granularly who you're probably going after. And we see amazing results there from both B2C and B2B. So something I would certainly recommend testing. And I think through self-learning and YouTube and stuff, it is something that I think you could spend some time and manage and figure out, at least on an entry-level basis.
And a follow-on to what he's saying, what I've noticed as well for one of my companies, we started doing Yelp, and everybody in the auto industry hates Yelp. Matter of fact, there's a topic I talk about, Yelp is not a 4-letter word. But Yelp has got a very good program for marketing for businesses. And one of the nice things about Yelp is Yelp is a search engine for iPhones. So if you have an iPhone and you ask Siri for a business, if you're not listed on Yelp, you're not going to show up. So Yelp is very important. And for as little as $5 a day, you could get a Yelp program where you're advertising on Yelp. They're giving you preferential treatment. And when I say preferential treatment, what I mean is this. If somebody Googles a dry cleaner and you are the dry cleaner that's being paid and you're paying Yelp, you will show up. If you're not paying Yelp, they may search you by name and find you, but all of your competition shows up on that same page. And if those people are paying Yelp and they're your competition, they show up on your page, they have a highlighted message. So it'll draw people away from you even though you search them specifically on Yelp. So Yelp is very good and it's inexpensive if you do it properly.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to go a little technical for a minute, and I want to ask the audience, who in the room knows what the GDPR is? Okay, well, we'll start with what that is. Let's try another tactic. Have you gone to websites where either at the bottom or the top a little pop-up is floated up that you've got to acknowledge that the site is tracking cookies? That is essentially part of the GDPR, and it's a law in the UK and other countries that says there's some specific things. But Sharon, can you just talk a little bit about what that means for your website? And then to follow up, Peter, can you talk about what that means in terms of email marketing?
So the GDPR, as Gina mentioned, is a European Union standard for data privacy. And so basically the first thing that they say is that you must have explicit consent to collect people's data. And so you're thinking, well, it's the European Union, and I work here in Baltimore, and so I don't need to worry about that. Well, it's coming closer as, as states like California have just passed GDPR light, if you will, that as of January 2020, you need to get that same explicit consent. And by explicit consent, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can have them fill in a form with a pre-checked box that says, please contact me via email every 5 seconds that you want to spam me. Those pre-checked boxes will have to go away. And it's not just form fills. It's actually if you collect their IP address on your website through Google Analytics or things like that. Google obviously has taken care of their specific requirements, but Google doesn't protect you. And so you need to be aware that as these laws become more and more common and all over the world, not just in the European Union or California, what impact it's going to have from your website and how you need to make sure that you have a privacy policy that addresses everything, including a specific GDPR representative that someone can contact to say, hey, Cher, I don't want to have my data tracked from your site. You need to tell them how long it's going to be tracked, what you're going to do with it, whether you're going to sell that information. All of that needs to be in your privacy policy on your website.
I think the most important thing here is being knowledgeable on it. Okay, the California rule is the CCPA. The Secretary of Commerce for the U.S. they're literally about to unveil a congressional bill for a U.S. law because they don't want to get behind this. If one thing to highlight though, if you do business with people in the European Union and they come to your site, you are still liable under that European law. So that's one asterisk you really have to think about if you do have international customers. But again, this is early stages. Things are going to change. Coolest thing about this industry is the technology is always changing, but I think just staying knowledgeable on it and so you can protect yourself when you get to that point.
And it's not just the legal ramifications, it's also the deliverability ramifications. We've worked with clients who have had inbox deliverability of about 21%. And so that means that for every 100 emails that they sent out, only 21 of them made it into the inbox that they anticipated. Some of them made it into the junk mail. Some of them never made it anywhere. You can be blacklisted for buying lists and for using them improperly. And all of those implications really not only impact your marketing, but can impact your transactional emails as well. If you send an email that says, we got your order, we're shipping, all of those transactional emails can and will be blocked equally as much as your marketing data by having unclean email marketing lists.
Yep.
I opened a can of worms there, didn't I? So, let's kick it old school a little bit. I've heard people call direct mail the new black. Can you tell me how businesses are integrating digital and direct and some of the other traditional marketing channels and how they're working together to get more conversion?
Sure, yeah. It's funny for me coming from the digital world first and then moving into the direct mail world, but it's very similar. I mean, it's targeting, segmenting, and driving that goal and pivoting. I think with the advancement of the digital technology has made direct mail so much more powerful. And so generally when we're running programs with direct mail, we're running it 1-for-1 with digital. And what I mean that is kind of what I was talking about with the power of mobile and lat-long devices matched to IP addresses. Essentially, if you have a direct mail list, you could take that list and match it to online devices 1-for-1. And so if you're talking about the cost of postage alone compared to digital ads, why not get those other touch points in? You know, you're making that investment for direct mail, do it side by side with digital. And another aspect of it, which I find very fascinating, is kind of the other side, going the technology the other way, where you can actually get a street address off of a site visitor now. So someone, like big catalog companies call it like an LL Bean or someone will arrive on their site, overnight they'll have an appended street address, they can match it over if they're in their file or not, and then send them a catalog overnight. So again, not really, I know it's a big brand, but this is stuff that we can all do now. And the technology is breaking down barriers for the small business to do these things. You don't need a huge New York agency to do it. So I digress, but I think the power of direct mail alongside digital is really strong, and we're seeing great results from it.
One of the best practices that we do with the email side, because I love direct mail, I think it works really well if you do it properly. But what we have our clients do is when they're sending out direct email, we then take all of the clickers, anybody who opened the email, read the email, and clicked through to the website. We pull those people out because we know that is an engaged audience. Somebody, think about it, if you take the time to open an email, read the email, and click through to a website, you're engaged. We take those people and we provide those to the direct mail company and say, we want you to send a direct mail campaign to these people. And then when you're sending the campaign, you at least know you're sending an email, a direct mail piece out to somebody who actually knows who you are and is interested in your product. And then you simultaneously time it where you sandwich that direct mail piece with an email that says, hey Bob, keep your eyes open because I'm sending you a special offer in the mail through US postage. And then 3 days after that direct mail piece should have landed, you send a follow-up email. Hey Bob, did you get the mail that I sent you? Or did the post office lose it? If you didn't get it, click here to see what you were supposed to get. And we call that sandwiching, and it works extremely well. For two reasons. Number one is you're using the digital touch to let them know to keep their eyes open for it, and then you're following it up in case they didn't get it or they just threw it away. And then number two is you're sending it to somebody that you know is interested in your product. And we're seeing, you know, on average, you know, your success rate with direct mail is about 1% if you're lucky. We're seeing at least a point to a point and a half lift with campaigns. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're sending out 10,000 pieces of mail, you know, it does have an impact.
Definitely.
And
So, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry, go please.
The benefits of direct mail in conjunction with digital advertising, telemarketing, or even display advertising from a broadband perspective on television, radio, things like that, is that you're seeing multi-channel. And so you may not reach people who, you know, depending on your target audience, if you're looking for seniors who may not be online as often as possible and may not be checking their email, it's a way to reach that specific audience. So I think direct mail we found not only for our older audiences, but also for business to business. If you're looking to reach business people, we do a several different campaigns where we're working to do some direct mail pieces followed up by traditional outbound telemarketing. And similar to the email, did you get our direct mail piece? But it's more of a, did you have questions on the direct mail piece that you received? So having somebody that's actively responding to that, you can see by putting personalized URLs on those direct mail pieces that someone actually came to your site, and use that to your advantage.
Yep. So great segue to the next question. And again, Peter, but please feel free to chime in the others. What are the top 3 things you would do to increase your open rate on email marketing?
Number 1 is include video. A video link is the second or third most popular link on any email campaign we send out, regardless of who we're sending it to. I could be sending out emails for a stretch bar in Dallas, Texas. I could be sending out for a dentist in Boise, Idaho. Does not make a difference. Video is the king. YouTube, as we all know, is owned by Google. So it also has a huge impact. The more views that you get on those videos, the higher those videos are going to rank, which is going to improve your SEO. So video is by far the most important. And the reason why it's very simple is everybody's walking around with a smartphone, and people would much rather watch a video when they're checking their email than read a bunch of copy. The second thing is your email needs to be mobile enabled. If you're not sending out a mobile enabled email, you're making a huge mistake. If you're trying to send out emails yourself, there's programs out there like Constant Contact, MailChimp, there's all of these inexpensive software programs that you could utilize, and those people do 2 things for you. Number 1 is they help ensure good deliverability, and number 2 is they make sure that your emails are properly formatted. And they need to be formatted for every device. One of the things that takes us a lot of time in what we do is we have to make sure our emails work on every device. And it's very time consuming because it may work on one, it may not work on another, but making sure your emails are formatted properly. And number 3 is don't sell through email. Email is not a sales tool. Like the earlier session about building relationships, email is a relationship building tool. I have never seen anybody buy a car off an email, but I send out millions of emails a month for car dealers. All an email is designed to do is to engage with somebody, build a relationship, and drive them to your website. And that's the critical point, because if you don't have a good website, you don't have those tools, you're wasting your time. There's actually clients we turn down because when I go look at their website's horrible. So why pay me thousands of dollars to send out emails for you when I know it's not going to work? So the 3 things are, make sure you have a video in there, make sure it's mobile enabled, and make sure that you're not selling, because if you put too much sales stuff in there, they're going to unsubscribe. And we've been doing this for 17 years. We have less than a 1% unsubscribe rate with our email campaigns. Less than 1%. And that includes my conquest. Because even our conquest stuff, when we're doing mass marketing, we don't spam the people. We do give them information, and we give them links to go back to the website.
Anybody?
I would just add to that in terms of when you're driving people to the website, use Google Analytics to set up some rough goals. And I kind of want to make that point on kind of this whole conversation. Set goals. I mean, even though we're not selling with all of these different platforms and it is engagement, but stuff like time on site, how many pages? Google Analytics is free, and again, you can teach yourself through some YouTube videos if needed for the basics of it, but have some metrics. And even if that is like having a friend come up to you and say they saw your ad on Facebook, have those goals, and with email and with direct mail and with digital, test. Test the headline, test the call to action. It's super easy these days to see results. And honestly, make the investment in the content and the creative. We were having some conversations earlier. Businesses and companies spend so much money on the media and getting it out there, but seem to rush the creative process and the messaging. And so, of course, with the testing, really think about that.
This is a good takeaway with what he just said. One of the simplest things you can do to test your email campaign, because the most important part of an email campaign is your subject line. Don't ever be deceptive. Hey, special offer. Make sure you are honest with your subject line. But the best and simplest thing is come up with 10 subject lines, type them out on a piece of paper, and pass it around your office. And ask your staff, hey, which is your favorite top 2 subject lines? And just do a little tally. It takes about an hour, but go through, call up a couple friends. Hey, I'm looking at a couple subject line ideas. What do you think? You spend all this time and all this money building an email campaign, and then you throw some ridiculous subject line on there that doesn't make any sense and it doesn't help. That's a simple thing you can do every day. And the other thing is about those services I told you about, like, and I'm not endorsing any of them because I personally don't like constant contact, but personalize them. In your subject line, you can personalize. Peter, here are your monthly service specials. When you personalize it, you're going to increase your open rate by about 7%. So it's very important to do that.
Sharon, you have anything to add?
So I think, a lot of the tips and tricks are great. The idea of starting with a clean list is the easiest way to increase your open rate, because if people know who you are and expect to receive information from you, that's a great way. Personalizing that friendly from, so it doesn't say info@Mostyn Marketing, it says Sharon Mostyn or Sharon at Mostyn Marketing. Things like that are key to getting people to recognize that they're receiving quality information from you in the inbox, and will open it more often than not.
Great. So B2B, B2C, two very different ways to market to those types of businesses. Starting with Sharon, favorite platform for each one and why?
It depends.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
The answer for all marketing questions is it depends. It depends on your target audience. We have a specific niche insurance company that is errors and omissions insurance for real estate appraisers and inspectors. It doesn't get a whole lot more niche than that, and nobody wants to talk about insurance. So there's a lot of things. Sorry, Eric. Only the birthday boy wants to talk about insurance. But that's a really niche B2B audience that you probably won't find those real estate appraisers and inspectors on LinkedIn. Yeah. As a general rule, LinkedIn is definitely a great place to go to for B2B marketing. As Colleen said, you could be looking both for customers as well as for prospects to work for you. From a B2C perspective, again, it depends. So from a social media perspective, if you're looking at your age ranges of your target audience, the age ranges will vary dramatically between Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. And to say, Facebook is the be all and end all, not necessarily. Social media is a great channel for B2C because it gives that implied endorsement. When you look at your Facebook information and you look at a Facebook page and it says, hey, Colleen and Gina and all of these people really like this page. Well, it must be an important page if they like it, and I should probably like it too. So social is a great aspect for that, both for B2B and B2C, but it really depends on who your target audience is.
That's fair.
I would say again, totally depends on the goals and the vertical and all those things. Goals are generally the biggest factor, geography itself. For B2B, we are seeing amazing results from a lead gen standpoint with paid LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't have the time to constantly be creating content, and that comes with a cost too. And the paid side of the social platforms, you can control the content and the conversation a little bit better, but the ability to target based on vertical, job titles, seniority, geography, all these things, we're finding amazingly deep kind of conversation starting in the B2B world from actually paid ads on LinkedIn, mm-hmm. which obviously on a metrics basis, impressions, clicks, leads are all going to be more expensive than your other platforms. So when you're talking about a B2B lead, the ROI is certainly there. So B2B, we find that is a good place to test on the paid ads. And then it pains me to say, I would say if you are going to say what's the best thing for B2C that you had to choose out of a box, I would say the paid Facebook, Instagram platform, which, from my career, seeing it come from nothing to a huge player in the field, and we use it a ton, it's kind of that mix of the visual of display with that, direct response of pay-per-click, and you can click through, and there's great ad units you can use to align with your goals, but pretty typical answer, but that's sort of where I would start.
Okay. So that also tees me up for a good question, and that is, we've all heard social is now pay to play. that organic social reach is 0 to 0.0%. So what are your thoughts on that statement, and how do businesses get the best traction from their social engagement?
I think the statement is completely true. I think you read the 10Qs, 10Ks of all these publicly traded companies, and it's insane that they're still putting up 60% year-over-year growth, and it's still coming from search. And these outreach platforms, how do you combat it? I think you just, I think you put a greater focus on your resources, and we have found that honestly, spending less time and investment on the organic to hope to kind of grow your organic following, we've seen it kind of see a higher ROI on more testing and targeting in the paid placements. I will say there will probably be some other disruptions soon, and that game may change, but I do think naturally that there'll be new platforms and such, but I do think that that is the fact, and it's getting harder and harder for the small business because of that.
Anybody?
I agree that social is becoming more and more pay to play, and I don't think it's going to get any better because, as you mentioned, this is how the companies make money, and so they're looking for not only a reason to be able to charge these rates, but also a way to expand their advertising. So by doing things like Colleen suggested in the first session. Not only posting quality content, which it all comes back to quality content from an SEO perspective, from a social perspective, all of that is about getting information that your target customers are looking for and sharing it, whether it's social or paid. And
tying in with what he was saying, with email marketing, one of the benefits is we have 7 million business email addresses. So if you're looking for a specific industry, you can target that industry, find the business owners, find their information, and then target them with email. And then to take it full circle, what we recommend is you take that information, you take the clickers, going back to the clickers. Somebody opened the email, they read it, clicked through. You can pull that data, and then you take that data, and then you go link up with those people in LinkedIn. So now you're reaching out to somebody, because what I have found myself personally from a marketing point, I market and I track everything very carefully. So if I'm trying to reach out to Steve, I'll know when I'm sending Steve emails, and I know when I'm calling him and I'm text messaging him, and he's not responding to me. But I find it amazing that about 60 to 70% of the time, when I'm going through and doing that, I turn around, I'll go find that person on LinkedIn, and I'll send them a LinkedIn message, they respond to me. It's just the craziest thing. So LinkedIn is a huge business tool. But if you find the people in all these different ways, you can take those same people, you can market to them in social, because you know who they are, you can market to them in LinkedIn. It becomes more targeted. So now instead of hunting with a rifle, with a shotgun, you're actually hunting with a rifle, because you now know who's reading your messages and you're targeting them with very specific messaging.
And another great thing you can do with those email lists is create similar audiences in Facebook and things like that, so that you can reach them not only via email, but also via their social platforms.
The lead gen ad unit in paid LinkedIn we find to be phenomenal because it pre-populates with the user's information, and the fewer steps you can make for a user to submit a lead is the best. And you also don't need to click through the ad to get to a website to fill out a lead. It's all in the ad, in the platform, so it's super quick, super easy, and that's where we find the best results. So it's literally called the lead gen ad unit in paid LinkedIn.
And you can do the same thing in Facebook.
Yes.
And Yelp.
Anybody?
And did that answer your question? And also, I guess, targeting. So think about job titles you want to go after. So you say you have your vertical and your job titles and your geo, and just add on those layers until you get to who exactly you're going for. And it'll tell you if it's not a big enough audience, and you can add more to it to get it there, but go right after what you're looking for. Thank you. You're welcome.
Back there?
So what do you think about phone calls these days? What do you think about phone calls these days?
Most people don't like phone calls. I mean, literally, I've got a lot of clients that are older clients, which I thought would always like phone calls, like old car dealers. And now it's like they're texting. Everybody's into texting. So it's a dying thing out there, phone calls. But people just would rather text or message.
We've done some phone call programs in sort of unique situations when it's like win-back programs, when it's a really valuable audience you're trying to engage. But honestly, the results haven't generally been there. So I think as of time, even on those highly valuable audiences, we're not particularly seeing the ROI right now.
And like I said, we've worked successfully with phone hand in hand with direct mail and digital in a cross-channel marketing campaign that, it lifts all ships.
Sure.
And, the one thing that you don't want to do is be that auto dialer because we've all gotten that phone call a billion times. So making sure that your ANI, your automatic number, when it shows up with your company name and not just the phone number of a close telephone number, so that it's relevant. So making sure that you've got that in place.
When it comes to content and relevancy, what are your thoughts about length? I've seen lots of different things. Some say it should be really long, but then people don't want to read, and some others say it's short.
I'm going to grab that one because it depends on whether you're writing for people or you're writing for the search engines. Currently, search engines, particularly Google, are saying they want long-form content, up to 2,500 words. People don't want to read that. Yeah. So I would mix it up, because if you can get Google to increase your quality score based on your authority and the interest that your subject has, and then write shorter pieces for people to actually read, adding in video I think is really important as well. So you want to mix up your content and understand the audience and who you're trying to reach.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
To Gina's point, I think that that 1,200 to 2,500 words that Google is looking for is very helpful, but to do it in the forms of how to, answering how-to questions, yep, doing lists, breaking out, whether it's through infographics, videos, imagery, having all of that combination is really the best way from Google's perspective to get that best listing.
Tips and tricks, things like that.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mary Kate from Charm City Organizers and CCP Consulting. We've mentioned Yelp, Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, all paid ads. Any idea around when setting up a budget, how many dollars a day or per week you should be looking, or is it all trial and error to see any ROI?
The biggest factor when we're making sort of recommendations on like spend is really the geo footprint and who the audience size is you're going after. So it's really hard to say, not knowing that those two answers, what the ideal budget is. Anything in digital advertising, though, kind of has a diminishing return. Sort of those first actions are easier to get than the longer tail ones. So I do think it's a little bit of a trial and error, and keep adding to it if you're getting a positive ROI until you kind of hit that point when it's tailing off, would be sort of the approach as a small business kind of getting into it.
And one of the things I always tell small business owners is you don't need to hire somebody to do that. I talk to a lot of people, small businesses, their advertising budget is maybe $2,000 a month. You don't need to hire somebody to do your pay-per-click. You can go to Google, you can go on YouTube, learn how to do it yourself. All of the dollars you're paying somebody else to do that work could be spent on buying ads for your business. And you can learn yourself, because it's not something that you have to spend a lot of time doing, but you can manage yourself. But most importantly, you can manage your success or your failures. So if you know that there are certain times of the day that are not working well, you can change that. The other benefit with doing it yourself is Google loves to help you. You can call Google and they will help you. They'll give you guidance. There's so much information out there. And I hate to see, because I see a lot of times these companies will go to small businesses and they're like, for $500 a month, we're going to get you on front page of Google. No, you're not. Okay? It's never going to happen organically. Okay? So when somebody comes in your office trying to sell you something like that, throw them out. You want to take that money and spend it for yourself for your own benefit. You don't need to have all of these people doing that, because what happens is your budget's $1,000. They're going to take $700 of that budget for their fee, and you're going to have $300 worth of advertising that gets paid out on Google or Facebook. So be very careful of those kind of companies. Do it yourself. It'll help your business grow. But you'll also know, because if you're having success, hey, you know what, we made 30 sales last week. Let's go spend another, $500 on Google ads this month. It gives you a better control of your business.
Hi, good morning. Stephen Sless. I run the reverse mortgage division for Primary Residential Mortgage. This is great. Thank you very much. Regarding video email, do you have a preferential platform, whether it be BombBomb or Dub or one of the other players?
There's really no such thing as a video email. You cannot play a video in an inbox. That's what a true video email is. When you're doing a video email, you're sending out an email that has, what we typically do is we'll put an animated GIF in there so it looks like there's some motion. And what will happen is you then click on the link and it takes you to a landing page. So really the key here is having a good landing page, having somebody who can make a nice little animated GIF, because it cannot be too large. If you make the animated GIF too large, more than 3 screens, you're not going to get an inbox, where they'll even be able to see it. So you need to keep it small, but your landing page is the critical piece when you're doing the video email, because you want that video to be the player to be a little bit larger. You want to make sure that it auto plays. They should not have to go click the play. And number 2 is you want to have a data capture form on it. The goal of an email is to get people to do one of 2 things. Pick up the phone and call you, which most people won't do, or fill out a data capture form. So those are the key things when you're doing a video email.